The screech of tires against asphalt tore through the quiet night, and my heart lurched into my throat. Red and blue lights pulsed in my rearview mirror, pinning me like a moth under a spotlight. I was just a guy driving home from a late shift, but now my palms were sweating, and my mind raced with every dumb mistake I'd ever made. I pulled over on the empty stretch of Route 17, a lonely road cutting through the sleepy town of Willow Creek, Oregon. The diner across the street glowed faintly, its neon sign buzzing open 24/7, like a promise nobody kept. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady my breath as the officer approached, his boots crunching on the gravel. His silhouette filled my window, broad shoulders, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and eyes that caught the moonlight like they held secrets. "Evening," he said, voice low and smooth, like he was calming a spooked horse. "License and registration, please." I fumbled for my wallet, my hands betraying me with a tremble. "I wasn't speeding, was I?" I asked, my voice thinner than I wanted. "I'm Elias Torres, 28. A graphic designer who'd moved to this nowhere town to escape the chaos of Portland. I wasn't built for trouble, not with my wireframe glasses and tendency to overthink everything." The officer, his name tag read J. Callahan, leaned closer, studying me like I was a puzzle. "You tell me," he said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "You looked like you were in a hurry to get somewhere." "I just wanted to get home," I stammered, handing over my ID. His fingers brushed mine, and I swear the air crackled. He was maybe 30, with short-cropped blonde hair and a face that carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much but still hoped for better. He glanced at my license, then back at me. "Elias, huh? You don't strike me as the law-breaking type." His tone was teasing, but his eyes held something deeper, something that made my stomach flip. "I'm not," I said quickly. "I swear, I'm boring. I design logos for coffee shops and binge documentaries about conspiracy theories." Why was I rambling? He chuckled, a sound that warmed the chilly night. "Boring's not a crime, but you were swerving a bit back there. You okay?" I nodded, though my heart was still pounding. "Just tired. Long day." He didn't move, just stood there, his gaze lingering. Then, in a voice so soft it barely carried, he said, "Step out of the car, Elias." My pulse spiked. "What? Why?" He straightened, his expression unreadable. "I need you to do something for me." He paused, then added, "It's about my Baton." My brain short-circuited. "Your Baton?" He nodded, patting the nightstick at his hip. "Yeah, I need you to touch it." I stared, mouth dry, certain I'd misheard. "Touch it? In a way you'd never expect," he said, and his voice dropped to a whisper, like he was sharing a secret meant only for me. "Trust me." I should have been terrified. I should have asked for his badge number or called someone. But something in his eyes, vulnerable, almost pleading, made me unbuckle my seatbelt and step out into the cool night air. He led me to the side of his cruiser, away from the road. The Baton was in his hand now, not threatening, but held out like an offering. "Go on," he said. "Hold it." I reached out, hesitant, my fingers brushing the smooth wood. It was heavier than I expected, warm from his grip. "What's this about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Cedar and something sharp, like citrus. "It's not about the Baton," he said. "It's about what it represents. Duty, protection, and sometimes breaking the rules." I froze, my hand still on the Baton, his words sinking in. This wasn't about a traffic stop. This was something else entirely. The night air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Officer Callahan, Jake as he'd later tell me, stood inches away, his breath visible in the cold. "You ever feel like you're carrying something you can't put down?" he asked, his voice raw, like he was peeling back a layer of himself. I didn't know how to answer. My life was a series of safe choices. A stable job, a quiet apartment, a cat named Pixel who was my only real confidant. But standing there, with Jake's baton in my hand and his eyes searching mine, I felt the weight of something unspoken. "Yeah," I said finally. "All the time." He nodded, like he'd known my answer before I spoke. "This baton," he said, his fingers brushing mine as he took it back. "It's a symbol of the rules I'm supposed to follow. But tonight, I'm breaking one." My heart thudded. "What rule?" He looked away, toward the diner where a lone waitress was wiping down counters. "The one that says I shouldn't feel this way about a guy I just pulled over." The world tilted. I'd spent years hiding who I was, moving to Willow Creek to avoid the judgment of a city that didn't always understand. I dated, sure, but always cautiously, always keeping my guard up. Now here was this cop, Jake Callahan, laying his truth bare in the middle of a deserted road. "You don't even know me," I said, my voice shaky. "I know enough," he said. "I saw you at the diner last week. You were sketching on a napkin, lost in your own world. I couldn't stop watching you. I remembered that night. I'd been doodling a logo for a client, oblivious to the world. You were there." He nodded. "In the corner booth. I wanted to talk to you then, but I'm a cop. People see the uniform, not the man." I swallowed, my throat tight. "And what's the man like?" He smiled, a small, sad thing. "Scared, tired of hiding, and really hoping you don't think I'm a creep for this." I laughed, a nervous sound that broke the tension. "You're not a creep, but this is a lot." He stepped back, giving me space. "I know. I'm sorry. When I saw your car tonight, I couldn't let you drive by without saying something." I looked at him, really looked. The uniform, the badge, the baton, they were all part of him, but not all of him. There was a man underneath, one who was risking everything to be honest with me. "What happens now?" I asked. He shrugged, a boyish gesture that didn't match the uniform. "You tell me, Elias. I'm off duty in an hour. There's a bench outside the diner. Meet me there." I should have said no. I should have gotten back in my car and driven home. But instead, I said, "Okay." The diner smelled of coffee and fried onions, a comforting mix that grounded me as I sat on the bench outside, waiting. The neon sign buzzed above, casting a pinkish glow over the sidewalk. I checked my phone. 1:07 a.m. Jake was late. Doubt crept in. What if this was a mistake? What if he'd changed his mind? I'd spent my life avoiding risks like this, keeping my heart locked away after too many rejections. Growing up, I'd heard the whispers. My family, my church, my small hometown in Arizona. "It's a sin," they'd said. "It's not natural." I'd carried that shame like a second skin, even after coming out, even after moving to a place where I thought I could be free. Headlights cut through the dark, and Jake's cruiser pulled up. He stepped out, no longer in uniform but in a flannel shirt and jeans, his hair slightly mussed. He looked younger, less guarded. "Sorry," he said, jogging over. "Got held up at the station." "You're here now," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He sat beside me, close enough that our knees almost touched. "I wasn't sure you'd stay," he admitted. "I wasn't sure I would either," I said. "This isn't exactly my usual Saturday night." He laughed, and it was the kind of sound that made you want to hear it again. Mine either. I don't do this. Ever. Then why me? I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. He looked at me, his eyes catching the neon light. Because you looked like someone who sees the world differently. Like you get it. The weight of it all. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent so long feeling invisible. Like my sketches and my quiet life didn't matter. But here was Jake, seeing me in a way I hadn't been seen before. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing like we'd known each other forever. He told me about growing up in Willow Creek, about joining the police force to make a difference, about the loneliness of living in a town where being openly gay could cost him his job. I told him about my art, my dreams of designing something that mattered, and the fear that I'd never be enough for anyone. As the sky began to lighten, he reached for my hand, his fingers warm and sure. I don't know what this is, he said, but I want to find out. If you do. I squeezed his hand, my heart racing. I do. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments. Jake and I met at the diner, at the park, anywhere we could be just two guys, not a cop and a civilian. But the secrecy weighed on us. Willow Creek was small, and rumors spread like wildfire. Jake's colleagues were already asking questions, and my coworkers noticed I was distracted, always checking my phone for his texts. One night, we were at his place, a small apartment cluttered with books and vinyl records. He was cooking dinner. Pasta with a sauce he swore was his mom's recipe, and I was sketching him at the stove, trying to capture the way his shoulders relaxed when he wasn't in uniform. You're staring, he teased, glancing over his shoulder. You're worth staring at. I shot back, and he laughed, crossing the room to kiss me. It was soft at first, then deeper, like we were making up for all the time we'd spent hiding. But the moment shattered when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face darkened. It's my sergeant, he said. Someone saw us at the park yesterday. They're asking questions. My stomach dropped. What kind of questions? He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. They're saying I'm distracted, that I'm not focused. If they find out about us, he trailed off, but I knew. In a town like this, being out could mean losing everything. His job, his reputation, his place in the community. Then we'll be careful, I said, though the words felt hollow. We can make this work. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of love and fear. I don't want to hide you, Elias. You deserve better than that. And you deserve to be yourself, I said, my voice breaking. We'll figure it out. Together. But the next day, everything changed. I was driving home when the lights flashed again. This time, it wasn't Jake. It was another officer. A man with cold eyes and a smirk that made my skin crawl. Heard you're cozy with Callahan, he said, leaning into my window. Better watch yourself, Torres. This town doesn't take kindly to that. The threat hung over me like a storm cloud. I told Jake that night, and his face hardened. That's Mitchell, he said. He's been gunning for me since I got promoted over him. He's looking for any excuse to take me down. Then we stop, I said, the words tasting like ash. We can't let him ruin you. Jake grabbed my hands, his grip fierce. No, I'm done hiding. I love you, Elias. I'm not letting him or anyone take that away. My heart stopped. He'd never said those words before, and they hit me like a tidal wave. I love you too, I whispered, and we held each other, the world outside fading away. But Mitchell wasn't done. The next week, Jake was called into a meeting with the chief. I waited outside the station, my stomach in knots. When he emerged, his face was pale. "They're investigating me," he said. "Anonymous tip. They know about us." I felt sick. "What do we do?" He took a deep breath, his jaw set. "We fight. I'm not ashamed of who I am or who I love, but I need you with me, Elias. Can you do that?" I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "Always." The investigation dragged on, but Jake refused to back down. He came out to his colleagues, standing tall as he told them who he was. Some turned their backs, but others, more than I expected, stood by him. The town was divided, but the diner became our sanctuary, a place where the waitress, Marla, called us her boys and slipped us free coffee. In the end, Jake kept his job, though it wasn't easy. Mitchell was disciplined for harassment, and the chief, a gruff old man with a heart bigger than he let on, told Jake, "You're a damn good cop. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." We stood on that same quiet street where we'd first met, the cruiser parked nearby, the diner's neon sign glowing. Jake took my hand, and I felt the weight of the past months lift. "We made it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We did," I said, leaning into him. The baton at his hip brushed against me, a reminder of the night that changed everything. It wasn't just a symbol of duty anymore. It was a symbol of us, of love that broke the rules and came out stronger. As the moon rose over Willow Creek, I knew we'd face more battles. But together we were unstoppable. Love, after all, defies all rules.